Hello, friends. I have very good news. Bishop Robert Guglielmone has announced that in mid-May, all parishes in the Diocese of Charleston may resume the public celebration of Mass with the provision that no more than 25% of seats available in any church may be occupied. At St. Mary's, our maximum attendance until further notice will be 115 persons, which means that we must stagger the dates on which you can come to Mass. So, to give everyone in the parish an opportunity to come to Mass during our first 4 weeks back, please listen carefully and follow this method. If your head of household was born in an odd-numbered year, and your last name begins with a letter from A to L, then come on May 16th or 17th. If your head of household was born in an even-numbered year, and your last name begins with a letter from A to L, then come on May 23rd or 24th. If your head of household was born in an odd-numbered year, and your last name begins with a letter from M to Z, then come on May 30th or 31st. Finally, if your head of household was born in an even-numbered year, and your last name begins with a letter from M to Z, then come on June 6th or 7th. I know this system is cumbersome and frustrating, and as we get closer to summer, I hope that we will be able to invite more people to each Mass. But that will depend on the rates of infection and hospitalization in South Carolina. So please come only on your designated weekend, because if we end up with too many people in the church, we will have to ask some to leave, and no one wants to face that situation. Please remember that Bishop Guglielmone has dispensed all Catholics in South Carolina from the obligation to attend Mass until this crisis is over. And so everyone is free not to come even when we resume public worship, and no sin is committed by missing Mass for any reason. In fact, if you are at risk of dangerous symptoms from COVID-19, whether by reason of age or illness, we encourage you to stay home and stay safe. And if you or anyone in your home has a fever or other signs of sickness, then you have a moral obligation not to come to Mass for any reason. Stay home, stay safe, and keep others safe. When we resume public worship, we will observe our normal Mass schedule of 5 p.m. on Saturday and 7:30, 9, and 11 a.m. on Sunday, with Mass in Spanish at 1 p.m. On your designated weekend, please come to the Mass you most often attended before the break. That will help us keep our numbers spaced properly. When you arrive for Mass on your designated weekend, you'll find that the cry rooms are closed and the nursery is not open on Sunday morning. The restrooms will be open in both Sacred Heart Hall and the church undercroft, but please use them only if absolutely necessary. And if you have children too young to keep proper social distancing on their own, then for the sake of those who may share your pew, please think carefully before bringing your children to Mass until we can relax these restrictions a bit, and be sure that you can control them if you do bring them with you. Unless weather makes it impossible, both the inner and outer doors of each vestibule will remain open, and every other pew will be closed. There will be no missalettes in the pew book racks, but you can pick up a program for Mass as you enter the church, and we ask you that you take it with you as you leave and throw it away in the designated trash can so that every booklet is handled by only one person. And please remember to remain 6 feet from anyone to whom you are not related when entering and exiting the church and while seated in the pew. All of these precautions will be in place to minimize the risk of transmitting the coronavirus while we are gathered to pray. And for the same reason, we encourage you to wear a face mask and to be mindful of what you touch. We will wipe down the pews and clean the restrooms after every Mass, but we will need everyone's help for all to remain safe. To keep proper spacing during Holy Communion, only the priest will distribute communion at the front of the church, and all who wish to receive the Eucharist should come in a single file line, leaving a 6-foot interval to the person in front of you. And we ask that until further notice, you receive Holy Communion in the hand. You may also remain in the pew and make an act of spiritual communion. The celebration of individual confessions will not resume until June, but Bishop Guglielmone has granted permission to every priest in the diocese to administer what's called general absolution of sins before Mass. If you wish to receive absolution, please be present in the pew no later than 10 minutes before Mass. Examine your conscience and resolve to confess any mortal sins that will be forgiven through general absolution the next time you make an individual confession. Then 5 minutes before Mass, the priest will lead those wishing to be absolved in an act of contrition and then grant absolution. This is a rite of reconciliation given by the Church for just such situations as this public health emergency, and it will allow you to receive Holy Communion with a clear conscience while individual confessions are still not permitted. We will, of course, continue to stream Mass each Sunday at 11 a.m., and when you cannot join us in the church, we invite you to participate in the sacred liturgy by following that video with the Mass booklet we send each week by email. My friends, these weeks of separation have been a trial for all of us in many ways, but we are finally making progress. In the weeks and months ahead, let us continue to serve each other, and especially those in need from illness or unemployment or other kinds of distress, even as we rejoice in being able once again to come to the altar and receive the sacraments. May the Lord of mercies fill you and those you love with every grace and blessing.